Our next speaker, would you please welcome Hayley Stevens. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm a ghost hunter. Most people laugh at that, and I was glad to hear laughter. So yes, do feel free to laugh at me. I am a ghost hunter who doesn't hunt for ghosts anymore, but at one point, I did hunt for ghosts. And it's kind of given me quite a unique perspective on the whole ghost thing, because I used to be a ghost believer, and now I don't believe in ghosts, and I take a more skeptical approach to what I do. I've been hunting ghosts, well, I've been researching ghosts. I don't like to use the word hunting, because I don't hunt ghosts, but I've been researching ghosts and ghost experiences since 2005. Which is when I actively got involved in the field of paranormal research. And you may not believe that field exists. It does, and it's huge in the UK. There are hundreds and hundreds of amateur ghost research teams in the UK alone who all go ghost hunting at the weekend, and I used to be one of them, and now I have better things to do, like going to the pub. Before I got involved in on-site investigations in 2005, which basically involves going to a location and then going, is there anybody there? Thus the title. I did investigations sort of from home. It was very weird. It was when I was still at school. This is when my interest in ghosts and psychics and things like that really kicked off. And I was still at school, and I went on these websites that have webcams that are set up in supposedly haunted places. And this is where my interest in looking for ghosts really kicked off. I've actually got some examples. These, when they come up, there they are. These are what are called top caps. And these are basically captures from 4 of the ghost cams that I used to watch. From the age of 15, I would avidly sit in front of a computer. This is really sad. I used to watch these webcams. This one on the bottom left is actually in Manchester, in Allstor Hall. The top left one is a family home in Missouri, US. That one is the basement of the family home, the one on the top right there. And then the bottom one here is Willard Library in the US. And these 4 are some of the top caps from these websites. And basically, hundreds of people sit at home and watch these webcams to see if they can find ghosts, because these places are allegedly haunted. And the top left one here, you can see the face in the TV screen. This apparently is a ghost using the TV screen to manifest itself. To me, it looks like it could just be a TV show, but, you know, I'm a skeptic. The top right one there is an animation. You can kind of see the different frames. And this allegedly is a ghost. You can kind of see like a spirity kind of translucent form coming in from the top and then allegedly sitting down on the chair. Cobwebs in front of the actual webcam picking up the IR beams. Down here on the bottom left one, you're meant to be able to see the face of a child. I'll just point it, I'll just go over here. Apparently, that's the face of a child, but to me it looks like a balcony. And then my favourite one is the library one on the bottom right. If you ignore the people sat on the right-hand side of the computers, you can see the aisle of books at the back. There is a Michael Jackson-like figure. I don't know if you can see it. Let me just see if I can get there. Can you kind of see it? I don't know if you can. No, I'll walk over. He's kind of doing like a dance move, and that's the ghost of Michael Jackson. This was before he died. So I'm not sure how that happened. But this is how I got hooked on ghost hunting. And after a while, it got boring, and I decided, I know, I'm gonna go out and actually hunt for ghosts in the flesh, so to speak. Not that they have flesh, because they're ghosts. And that's where my life took a very, very strange turn, and it hasn't gone back to being normal ever since. So what is a ghost hunter? Is anybody here a paranormal investigator or a ghost hunter? Am I the only one? Oh, at the back, hello. Yay, people to offend, sorry. So I've got these two images up here. What is a ghost hunter? People tend to believe that ghost hunters are either very spiritual people who do table tipping, who believe they could talk to the dead and do things like that, or they're very scientific or tech-driven, so they have a lot of gadgets, or they use a lot of technology to try and communicate or document ghosts, or to document things that are causing people to experience ghosts. The truth is, I mean, that is kind of accurate to a point, but the truth is, and especially with modern day ghost hunting, it's a bit more complicated. I've got a photo here that I've been given permission to use by this team. This is Soul Seekers Paranormal from Leeds. And this photo really kind of captures what ghost hunters are all about these days. So you can see there they've got the Ouija board. Any good ghost hunter has a Ouija board. And then they've also got the case there with their thermometers, and they've got a K2 meter there, one of which I've got here, and I'll show you later on. They're really fun. They've got some thermometers and stuff. So you find that a lot of ghost hunters do this thing where they have the spiritual stuff. So they'll do table tipping, and they'll do Ouija boards, and they'll do dowsing, and they might have a medium on the team, but they'll also try and incorporate what they think is science into their investigations, so that they can be seen as open-minded and trying to rationalize things. Sometimes with some ghost hunting teams, the rationalizing goes as far as to say that ghost orbs in photographs might not always be ghosts and might sometimes be dust particles. The fact is that all the time they're more likely to be dust particles or pollen or water droplets, not ghosts. But so a lot of ghost teams do have this kind of twisted view on what scientific investigation is about, and how to conduct controlled research and things like that, and believe that being open-minded means that you use Ouija boards as well as thermometers, which is fun. So I suppose the question to go on from there is, how do you hunt for ghosts? And the answer is you don't. I've been investigating since 2005. It wasn't until 2007 that I became the kind of skeptical researcher that I am now. And up until that point, I would go into locations that were reputed to be haunted, and I would look for ghosts. And I would do all sorts of stupid stuff to try and communicate with them. And then in 2007, it wasn't as, just suddenly overnight I became skeptical. A lot of things had happened and led up to this point where I realized that I was barking up the wrong tree, and I became a lot more rational, and I stopped doing things like table tipping, and we stopped working with mediums and psychics, and we stopped doing automatic writing and all this kind of nonsense. And I started to look at cases a lot more logically. So ever since then, we've had dozens and dozens of things reported to us. I'm based in Wiltshire, and we have a small team of people who operate in Wiltshire. And a lot of ghost teams will go out every weekend or every other weekend. They'll book a venue that's meant to be haunted, and then they'll meet up there, and then they'll spend the evening or the night there until 4 o'clock in the morning, and then that's their investigation. We're not like that. In 2011, our small group of investigators, we did 2 studies, and one of those only lasted 2 hours because we realized that there was no way that we could really investigate the claims that were being made. And so we kind of take on cases if they're reported to us, and only if we think it's appropriate to investigate them. And we'll always look at them and look for the logical causes for what people have witnessed, and see if we can rule out all the normal experiences. So first of all, you start with an empty slide. There you go. You start with what's normal, and then only when you can kind of cross that out can you then start to claim or decide what is not normal. And this is where a lot of ghost researchers kind of mess up, because they don't kind of rule out what's normal before they claim that. They don't really rule out what was normal before they claim that something was paranormal. And by paranormal, they're coming to the conclusion that it was a ghost, or it was a flying saucer, or it was a monster, rather than a boy in the water. And this is a big problem because obviously it's illogical. The two cases we had in 2011 were really quite boring compared to a lot of the cases that ghost hunters will do. They'll do dozens and dozens in a year, and they'll be quite interesting because they've got the table tipping going on, and they've got EMF meters kind of whirring away and stuff like this. And our investigations kind of just involved us kind of sitting in the building and just talking with the location owners about what might be actually happening, and measuring how wonky the floor was, and the temperature and things like this, and then having a cup of tea and deciding what was what. And the important thing with ghost research is that when you're going into a location, you should never be going in to tell people what is causing what they've witnessed. So whether that's going in and going, oh, it was a ghost, or whether it was going in and saying, no, it was just, psychological causes, and you probably just saw something out the corner of your eye. You really should always go in and tell people what you think caused what they experienced, rather than knowing what they experienced was caused by this, because a lot of people who have these strange experiences, they often just want someone to believe that they've had the experience, and if you can then involve them in a logical process of working out what caused that experience, it can really help them. But telling them, no, it wasn't a ghost, it was this, can quite often push them away from thinking logically about it. And so you just kind of give them your opinion. But unfortunately, when people do go in and do table tipping and things like this, they provide that as evidence that it was a ghost, and that could be quite damaging. Let's see what's next. Yes. This is quite embarrassing. I nearly didn't put this in, but I have. This is an example. This is from 2005 when I first became involved in paranormal research. This is really embarrassing, actually. This is us in a pub that's meant to be haunted. And what you're going to see, it's only very short because there was a lot of swearing, and I didn't want to put that up here. Because it's mainly me swearing. And I'm filming, basically, and I hear a noise and I react. I'm just going to play it and see if you guys can work out what I'm reacting to. As you'll see, I'm a little bit scared. Outside. What was that? Could you hear that okay? At all? Yeah, I'll just play it once more. Outside. What was that? So, I don't know if you could hear the hissing noise that I was reacting to there. It freaked me out, and for years and years I believed that was a ghost behind me hissing at me. It turned out to be an air freshener on the wall, which is a bit humiliating, really, but there you go. It's like one of those automatic release ones that you get in pubs. And we were in a pub, but because I was looking for a ghost, I found a ghost. Had I been looking for logical causes, I might have then stopped and go, oh, let's see if we can, after I screamed and gone, what was that? I might have then looked for the logical causes and gone, oh, it was an air freshener. But I wasn't looking for the logical causes, so I completely missed it. And this is people tend to look at ghost hunters as being a bit silly. They go into haunted places, they talk to ghosts, how silly are they? They're just fooling themselves. And in most cases, they are just fooling themselves. And obviously, kind of having these delusional beliefs isn't great, but it's not always harmful. But sometimes it crosses over into being harmful. And that's where the main problem with ghost hunting really lies. It lies where we have this problem where we have lots of paranormal teams going into people's homes where they live. People who are vulnerable, so they may have mental illness, there may be children in the premises, or they may be recently bereaved. And we're going in, and also ghost hunters, when they do private investigations, often don't know the circumstances of the person who lives there, so their religious beliefs, their history, whether it's safe to go in. If you go into someone's home, you don't always know who they are, so you don't know what kind of situation you're putting yourself in. And vice versa. There was a case where a UK-based paranormal researcher has recently, in the last year, been jailed for paedophilia, and that guy was going into people's homes with their children, and nothing happened that has ever been reported. But because people are allowing him into into their homes because they thought they had ghosts, there was that situation where something could have happened, and that's really, really scary. Or at least I think that's really scary. And I've been in people's homes where they've had experiences in their homes, and I've gone in, this is when I was like very young, and I've gone into their home to investigate. And it's only now that I can look back and go, I can see that I was putting myself in danger, and I was probably also acting very unethically towards them as well. And that's why I continue to do ghost research, because it worries me that this kind of happens. When you actually look at the field of ghost research as a whole, I mean, you have amateurs, but you also have professional organisations. Some of you may have heard of ASAP. They're the Association for the Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena. Or you may have heard of the SPR, the Society for Psychical Research. ASAP are sort of now developing an ethical code that their members can opt into. So these are ghost hunters who, or paranormal researchers. I call them ghost hunters because that's how the media refer to it. It's rather derogatory, but there you go. It just conjures images of people going around with guns trying to find ghosts, and then just like with ghost heads on their walls or something. We don't do that. Or at least I don't. I mean, maybe some do, but I don't. That would be a bit weird. But the Association for Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena are putting together an ethical code their members can opt into, which is good, because then people could be held accountable for bad behaviour, and people who invite them in know what those people should be behaving like. Worryingly, the SPR don't have an ethical code that all their members have to abide by. They kind of rely upon the people who do the research for them to have their own ethical code, which is good if the researchers do, but it always, it's always a bit of a worry that somebody might interpret something in a different way when it could be unethical, but they think is ethical. And one of the worst cases I've ever come across of unethical behaviour with ghost researchers was actually very locally to where I live. I live in Wiltshire, and there's a town called Chippenham. And we had, it was in 2011 actually, at the very beginning of 2011, we had an email from somebody in Chippenham saying they'd had some ghost hunters into their home, and they were really scared by what these ghost hunters had found. And this team had come down from the Midlands, gone into this person's home at 10 o'clock at night, and then left 4 o'clock the next morning. And they had like 2 mediums on their team and lots of members who claimed they could talk to ghosts. And whilst they were there, they explained to the homeowner that there was an angry male spirit in the home who was manifesting mainly in the child's bedroom. They had a daughter, and it was mainly manifesting in her bedroom. And then the ghost team started to experience things. They started to feel like they were being pulled. Somebody got scratched. The medium had to leave the house because it was so overwhelming for them. They did like some glass divination, which you're going to see soon. And they contacted this ghost, and it was so angry that it flew the glass off the table in anger. And they were convinced it was this male ghost, and the medium said that he was drowned in a pond locally for abusing children in his life, and he was angry because of that. And then this ghost team went home, and they left this homeowner in their home thinking they had this really angry male ghost who abused children. And they phoned us because we're like a team, one of the main teams in Wiltshire, and they were like, help. And it's kind of like, how do you help them? All you can really do is listen to them and explain why that might not be true and why the team may have experienced this and may have experienced that, but the damage is already sort of done. And this is a bigger problem than many people think it is, because ghost hunting and paranormal research, I mean, obviously you have academic research into these studies, into these fields, but there is a huge amount of people doing amateur research who don't have to abide by any code of ethics, and they don't have to be screened or anything like that. There's a real danger there. But, I mean, it sounds really down. I've kind of made it sound really bad and horrible and depressing. But it can be also quite funny. And I do have some examples of how these teams kind of operate, and how a lot of the time the paranormal teams are usually just trying to confirm their own biases. Normally they hunt for ghosts because they believe ghosts are real, or they want to believe that ghosts are real, or they want to prove something to somebody else. Or maybe they've seen something on television, a program on television, maybe one with Chris French in it. And they think, I'd like to be like those ghost hunters. So they go out to their local areas, to the haunted places near them, and they buy the equipment they see on TV or on other websites with paranormal teams, and they copy what they see, and they don't think through, they don't consider the impact their behavior can have. And they just communicate with ghosts, and they kind of prove themselves right. And I do have some examples of how you talk to ghosts. Obviously, the best way to talk to ghosts is to be psychic, but let's not go there. Okay, this one here, this is, I don't know if people here know what orb photography is. Is anybody not familiar with orbs? Sounds really dodgy. Orbs, I don't know if you can see it very well. The guy is reaching out, and there's like a kind of semi-transparent circle just at the end of his hand there. This is an orb, and ghost hunters consider these to be the first sign of spirit manifestation. A ghost will then become like a mist or a vortex, and that's their kind of journey towards becoming a full manifestation. And quite often, actually, people post these photos as proof that they've got a ghost in the room with them, or they've communicated with a ghost. And the reason I've chosen this particular orb photo is because this was one where the ghost hunters were claiming that the ghost was appearing on demand. So they would reach their hand out and say, please appear, and then they would take a photograph, and there would be an orb at the end of their hand, and they would go, see, it's appeared on demand. But obviously what they would not kind of put into that equation is like the dozens and dozens of photos they've got where there are no orbs, they're holding their hands out like this with nothing there, they're just looking at the curtain. But, you know, quite often ghost hunters will just cherry pick their data to fit with their beliefs. They'll provide the evidence that they've got that they think shows that a ghost is responsible, but they won't show you all the misses, so they just show you the hits. Now, this is an experiment that many ghost hunters use. It's called a trigger object experiment. And basically, it's pointless. But ghost hunters, most of this stuff is pointless, let's just be honest. But ghost hunters use this all the time, and I used to use this all the time. I've actually still got the results from my old trigger object experiments at home, just for old time's sake. And in this one here, you can see they've got like a plate with some talcum powder on it, and then they put 2 marbles, and you can see a track where one of the marbles has moved and the other one's moved slightly. And the reason you do trigger object experiments is to try and interact with ghosts. So when the trigger object moves, that is classed as evidence of a ghost existing. So if you've got a case where there's paranormal activity where things are moving or keys are disappearing, or something like that, that's kind of typical behavior you get reported. Ghost hunters will do trigger object experiments, and then when it moves like this is proof that a ghost has been with them and has communicated with them and demonstrated its presence. Now, the obvious problem here, as I'm sure many of you are aware, is the fact that just because it moves doesn't mean it was a ghost. It could have been an invisible monkey, a leprechaun, a goblin, or it could have just been somebody knocking into the table, or vibrations, or someone messing around with you to make you think there's a ghost there. Not that anyone would do that. Okay. So this is where I got into the videos. Those of you who may have seen my talks before will have seen this one before, but you'll understand why I've included it again, because it's so funny. This is a form of ghost communication called glass divination. And basically, I'm sure you've all heard of Ouija boards. Does anybody not know what a Ouija board is? Oh, good. Basically, glass divination is a Ouija board without the board. And the idea behind this is, well, people normally do glass divination because they're scared of Ouija boards. And they'll take a glass, an empty glass, and turn it upside down. And they all put their fingers on the top, and then they ask the ghost to move the glass to answer questions, like yes or no questions, or sometimes you can ask, where are you in the room? And the glass will move to like a corner of the table and you know it's over there. And I've done glass divination before where we've gotten like really bored and run out of questions and gone, can you draw a square? Can you draw a star? And it does it. It's really magic. Now, obviously, the cause behind this movement is the ideomotor effect, involuntary muscular movement, to meet your expectations. You'll often find if you think a certain ghost is haunting a place, you're probably going to communicate with it if you do glass divination, simply because your suggestion, you've got the suggestion there in your head, and you just kind of meet that expectation. We did an investigation with another paranormal team. We did like a joint investigation at this really big manor house in Wiltshire. It's now a hotel. And this was around the time that I started thinking things like this were rubbish. And I thought it would be interesting to run a bit of a test on the people present. And so when we did like the briefing, I introduced them to the idea that one of the ghosts there was this guy called Jason, and he liked to walk in the greenhouses, and he died in a boating accident and things like this. And then in the glass divination session, we contacted Jason, who didn't exist. Who's got their phone on? And it's a call from the other side, and it's Jason. And it was really interesting that even though this couldn't be the spirit of Jason communicating with them, they were still communicating with Jason because they expected him to be there, because I'd planted that false information. And when I raised it with the founder of the other paranormal team, I was told, if you lie to spirit, spirit lies to you. I was like, yeah, because that's really the most logical cause here. So I'm just going to play this example. I don't know how good the sound's going to be, but it does have subtitles. And this is glass divination, and it's a really good example of how, if you have the information to hand, you make things fit.
If there's a spirit here, can you tell us if you're a man, please? Are you a man? You're not a man, okay. So I'm going to ask the obvious question now. Are you a female? Are you a woman? Yes, okay. It's a different energy. Can you feel the change? Yeah. This is really, really slow. Yeah.
This is a child.
This is odd. Okay, can you tell us, are you a child? Ooh, are you a man? Oh my goodness.
Oh dear.
Right. Okay, did you do some things wrong in your life? Did they used to call you cruel?
Did you work for somebody who lived here?
Are you royalty?
Royalty?
Okay, did you come here into the front room where Janet and John live now? And I felt you earlier, that really strong, clear energy. Oh God, he's really behind me. Is there any temperature dip behind me?
Steve's on this side.
So you were a member of the royal family when you were alive, is that correct?
Asking who? Trying to distinguish. Are you an earl? Are you a lord? Are you a sir? Are you king?
King? Is your name Henry? I don't know what you're doing, that's too weird.
So that's a paranormal team communicating with Henry VIII. Incredible, incredible. Sorry, I forgot about that swear word. I apologise if you're offended. But it's really hilarious to watch. And I didn't pick this one just to pick on this team. This is like one of the first ones that comes up on YouTube when you search glass divination. And it's really hilarious because it's quite obvious that you can see they've already expected King Henry to be there because somebody mentions it might be him, and they picked up on a male energy earlier on. But I've done this stuff. I've done this so many times with glass divination when I used to believe in ghosts, and it's so easy to believe that it's not you pushing it. And we actually, when I started to doubt myself and my beliefs, we did a test where we got some Play-Doh, and we put it on top of the glass, and then we placed our fingers on top of the glass. And when the Play-Doh was there, the glass didn't move. And that was because we were all aware that we might be pushing it, so we were making sure we didn't push it. But when that Play-Doh isn't there and you remove that control, it's really easy just to push the glass without realising it. And it's really easy to think you're talking to dead kings when you're probably not. What's really cool about King Henry VIII, he's haunts 12 different places. So this one, I should probably explain actually, that big picture there is this, and this is a K2 meter. And it actually brings us nicely onto this video here, EMF discussion. There is this theory with ghost hunters that electromagnetic fields are disrupted by ghosts when they're manifesting. So they often use these meters here, and you can see they kind of light up to detect whether a ghost is present. So if there's a variation in the EMF reading, it could be a ghost that's causing it. And it's a very novel idea, but obviously there's a lot of natural reasons why EMF readings will fluctuate, and it's impossible to rule those out when you're in someone's house looking for a ghost. But people don't really, ghost hunters aren't interested in that. They're interested in talking to a ghost. And a novel kind of, this never used to happen when I was a believer, but people were using EMF meter, and there are other models of EMF meters. This is just a basic one you can get, K2 meter it's called. And they'll use EMF meters as ways to talk to ghosts. They realise that if a ghost can make the EMF fluctuate, then perhaps it can do it on command. And this is an example of a team having a discussion with a ghost via EMF readings. I should probably point out, the weirdly shaped one in the middle has a red light on the end that lights up when it detects fluctuation.
Did you go further back than that?
I don't know how well you can hear that.
Yeah.
3 is definitely yes.
Did you go back to the 17th century?
15th?
18th century? Are you a male? Are you a female?
He knows he's a man.
Hang on a minute, have a think. Is there any other spirits here with you?
Yeah.
Are they all nice spirits?
No. Would you like to be moved on?
Are you happy here? Just watching other people. Are you happy?
He's answering it now before you say it.
Do you smoke a pipe?
Of course he is. I leave that one there because it's really boring. So you could just see that the EMF meter is just going off randomly because it's detecting fluctuations, and they're attributing that to the ghost. And interestingly, if you just leave an EMF meter going on its own, it does that anyway. But it's only when you start asking questions does it seem that it's answering you. And there was that, I chose that clip because it's the classic line where it goes off before they've asked the question, and they're like, oh, it's psychic, it's amazing. And it's like, I don't think so somehow. And I could play this one. I'll cut this one a bit short because it does go on a bit. It's kind of depressing. because ghost hunters also do this with torches. What they'll do is, you can get those kind of like mag-light torches where you screw the end off to put the batteries in, and you've got the on-off button on the end of the torch. So if you unscrew that, the connection with the battery becomes really unstable, and it'll kind of flicker on and off. So they'll do that, and they'll put that on a surface, like a bed or a worktop or wherever they are, and they'll ask the ghost to light it up in response to their questions. I'm just going to show you a quick clip of this in action. This one's got subtitles.
Okay, turn it off.
Okay, well, we won't show that one then, because you can't see the subtitles. It's not really that good. Basically what happens is they ask this spirit like 12 different questions, and it only answers twice. And so that they've asked it 6 questions, and then it flashes on, and they just presume that it's answering that question. It's just cherry picking. If they included all the misses into their data, they would realize that they're probably not talking to a ghost. It's just random patterns. But they're just making that confirm their belief that a ghost is there. My favorite method of ghost communication is electronic voice phenomena. Electronic voice phenomena is the idea that you can talk to a ghost, you can ask a ghost questions, and then you record on a dictaphone at the same time, and then when you play the dictaphone back, you'll hear answers from somebody that's not there that you haven't heard at the time. It's called EVP for short, and it has actually recently updated. You can get things called ghost boxes now, and they allow you to communicate directly with the ghost. So it's like a detuned radio, basically, and it skips through the radio channels and radio waves, and it makes this weird noise. And as you're asking questions, you get kind of snippets of voices, and this is allegedly ghosts answering you directly, so you can have an actual conversation rather than having to play it back and listen for answers. That's just radio stations. I've got a ghost box at home. I didn't bring it in because it's rubbish. And I've actually been using the ghost box before, and I've had the Rolling Stones come through, and I'm like, wow, that's incredible. And also there was a time when Steven Tyler was talking. I was like, wow, I've got the ghost of Steven Tyler. And my friend pointed out, he's not dead. So that was probably just a radio station that I picked up on there. And funnily enough, if you don't have a good radio signal, the ghost box doesn't work. And it's got an aerial on it, and it actually says, do not pull the aerial up, because then it tunes in better, and you don't want it to do that. What I have here are some classic EVP recordings, and they are just auditory illusions. Basically, it's just random noise that people have put meaning into because they're asking the questions. If you were just to record this and get these noises just randomly, you probably wouldn't hear the words you hear, but because you've asked a question, it kind of dictates what you hear in response, or how you interpret what you hear in response. The first one, and I hope this plays because I know there's a bit of a whistle. I'm not sure why, I'm sorry about that. This one came to my attention because of Chris French. And he very kindly said I could use it in my talk rather than him using it in his talk. This one was posted on his Facebook wall by a ghost hunter called Don. And I'm going to play it. I've cut it down. You're going to hear a noise, and then you're going to hear a man talking. The man talking is living. He's the ghost hunter. I couldn't quite cut it down enough. But it's the noise beforehand, before he talks, that is alleged to be a ghost. And I'm going to play it, and I'm going to see if anybody can tell me what it's a ghost of. If you've been to one of my talks before, you already know, so keep quiet. But I'm going to play it. See if you can work out what it is. I'll play it twice, if I can. I hope it works. It doesn't seem to be working. Okay. Next one. It was actually meant to be a horse ghost, and it was just the sound of like something scraping on the floor. For some reason, it's not picking up from my laptop. Maybe the next one will work. It won't be such a disaster. Let's have a look. Did anybody hear what that ghost said? Sorry? Yeah, maybe. That'll be nice. Get out. That's interesting. Anybody else hear that? It was just before the squeak from the dodgy connection. It's actually saying keep out, allegedly. Keep out. You might be able to hear this one. Some of them are really difficult to hear. Damn ghosts. That is it. That's not the squeaky connection. That is the EVP. Did anybody hear it the first time and what it could be? Allegedly, it was saying, about time, help me, let me get out. There you go. You can just kind of... Just once more. You can kind of hear the let me get out at the end. I've forgotten what this one is, so this will be fun. Anybody? Ghost of an owl. Yes, no, it's not. Just once more. If it... Anybody? Just listen to me. And then there's one more. Did you hear that? I'm not sure if it's working. Okay, well, I can't seem to get that one to play, but allegedly it said, I know these people are with you. And when I played that one to my mum and my brother, and my mum heard somebody singing Bad Boys. I'm not sure where she got that from, but there we go. I'm just aware of the time, it's nearly lunchtime. Just to wrap up, I just wanted to talk about the future of ghost hunting and how it's kind of progressing. Great advances are being made into understanding why people experience weird things in the academic field, but in the amateur ghost hunting field, people continue to enter people's homes to look for ghosts, to enter people's premises where they work and live to look for ghosts, and they use a variety of techniques. These are screenshots from an iPhone app that I was asked to review. This is a ghost hunting iPhone app. The left one is the interrogator, and you put your iPhone on the table and you ask the ghost yes or no questions, and it presses the buttons. I don't know how, but it does. And then this one on the right is the power detector, and basically it's got a thumbprint on the bottom and the gauge on the top to gauge the power. And the idea is that the ghost puts its thumb on the thumbprint, and then you could detect how strong it is. I don't know if ghosts have thumbs. Casper didn't. So, well, actually he did, didn't he? A lot of kind of iPhone apps are being marketed at ghost hunters. There's a ghost radar that has blobs that appears on it. And this is made by a company called Ghosts Aren't Real. It's kind of like a Mickey tape, but people actually use it on investigations. And there's, it's really funny. And there is one called the eye ovulus, and the ovulus is a device. It's a bit it kind of comes from the idea of the EMF fluctuations being caused by ghosts, but the eye ovulus has a dictionary inputted. So every time there's a fluctuation, there's a word associated with it, and it kind of interprets the fluctuations to work out what the ghost is saying. I've had the eye ovulus going whilst I'm reading my talk, and apparently a ghost has said barn and few. it just kind of throws random words out there. So people are using iPhone apps to hunt for ghosts. It's become quite popular. And also more and more gadgets are being marketed at ghost hunters too. There's a power recorder that alleges to be able to power ghosts, so it gives them energy, and then also records their thoughts and what they're saying. And I happened to suggest to the manufacturer that it might not do that, and they responded by saying if I wrote about that, I would be sued for libel. So that was fun. And then I've got my latest ghost gadget. I do collect ghost gadgets. It's really sad. I had such a large collection when I realised that ghosts probably weren't real that I was like, I may as well put them to use. And I just carried on collecting them just for laughs, really. And this one is, it's called the Ghost Laser Grid. And I don't know how well it will show up, but I will. You can kind of see the green dots up on the ceiling there. You can kind of change it like that. It's quite pretty. And the idea is you get a tripod with this. I don't have mine with me. And you put it in a room, so like you fill a whole corner of a room with these dots. And the idea is you then turn the lights off. If a ghost walks by, you're then able to see the ghost clearer. My answer to that is just turn the lights on. If a ghost is gonna appear, it's gonna appear with the lights on just as well as it is with this. This cost me £20. I was really gutted about that. And yeah, so that's really it. The future of ghost hunting is sort of becoming the past of ghost hunting because people are just finding new ways to communicate with ghosts, and they're removing the table and they're putting their iPhone in the place of the table instead. And if there's one thing you can take from this, it's please be aware of ghost hunters locally to you. Not all of them are unethical. Not all of them are potential paedophiles, and not all of them are stupid. People aren't stupid for believing in ghosts. We all come to our own conclusions. But just be aware of them because they might be going into people's homes, and just keep an eye out. They're a bigger problem, I think, than a lot of people realise. And I say that as a ghost hunter myself, who used to be very unethical with what I did. You've been a wonderful audience. I've been Hayley Stevens, and thank you very much.